My name is Varankaranantham from Iconic Mortgages, and we have a special host here, Vithu Ramachandran from Ramachandran Law.
Yes. Thank you, Varan. It's a pleasure to be here. I've seen a lot of your pods already, and I was wondering when you're going to ask me to come on.
I've been asking for some time.
I know. Things
You're a
worked out
busy
now.
guy to get hold of.
Got it.
But we are here, and thank
Yeah.
you for being here. Vithu, we're going to talk about an interesting topic. There's a lot of stigma about the topic we are going to talk about. Family law in the ethnic communities.
Yes.
So there's a lot of family issues never openly talk about, and they're scared to take the legal advice. So share what are you seeing and what the best advice you can give it to the community.
Okay. So there's a lot of this happening. And as we go into a realm where we're in the second generation of ethnic communities and so forth, you're seeing a blend of the Western culture and your ethnic communities kind of clash. So
Correct.
you have your morals and values from your ethnic culture, and then you have the Western moral and value, and these are colliding. And you're also working in this legal framework, which is from the Western world. So a lot of people from our ethnic community has problems is when they interact with Western laws and ideals and values, but were born and raised in this ethnic perspective and world. So there's a lot of clashes that happen. So let's start with the takeaway. The takeaway is always you need to talk to someone as early as possible. It could be a legal advisor, it could be a counselor, someone to help you understand what you're going through. Because to be true, you're not the only one going through this. There's many people, but you need to get the right advice from right people who can guide you and not just emotionally alter you, but to actually guide you and show you a pathway of how this situation can triage itself out. Right. So it's critical to find help. Now back to the part of ethnic communities. So we're seeing a lot. The South Asian population. So South Asian population, we're coming from a patriarchal society. The man is really dominant. Women are more subservient. But as we see now with the second generation and women who have been integrated into the Western world,
Correct.
It is changing. Right? They're independent, they're their own thinkers. They're sometimes, if not a lot of times, the head of the family, and they're advocating for themselves. And they know their rights, which is great. So what you have is this old school clash versus new school clash. And when you clash, what happens is new school is winning. In the sense that old school doesn't know how to cope with this.
They don't understand the framework around it.
So we run into a lot of these issues where it's domestic assault, like violence, like hitting your wife or slapping her or something, was maybe more acceptable 40, 50 years ago in other parts of the world. And maybe it is now too. But it's definitely not acceptable here. It's not tolerable at all. So a lot of people's coping mechanism sometimes, especially with the males, is if it goes to above a certain point, is resort to violence. And what happens is they're in a momentary fight, or maybe it's prolonged. There's a domestic violence issue. The cops are involved, and the person who hit will get arrested.
Become a criminal.
It becomes criminal. And what happens is, after the heat subsides, they're remorseful. And the other partner sometimes is remorseful too. It's like, shit, maybe I was part of the escalation. Maybe I don't feel that this was serious enough for me to lose my entire family. And sometimes they do regret calling the cops. And I get a call, a lot of calls on this. It's like, hey, my husband was arrested yesterday for domestic violence. I called the cops, but today I want to recall or
Charges.
Yeah, I want to revoke the charges. And then we have to go into this awkward conversation. It's like, I'm sorry, but the beast is out. It's not in your hand. It's not your charge to withdraw. You have to understand what it is. You're just a victim. You're just the victim, but you're in the process now. You're in the system now. So, it's not your choice whether the case is going to be withdrawn. It's the choice of the prosecutor. And then we refer them out to a criminal specialist who could help them navigate. There are several, tools that they could employ to maybe mitigate potential outcomes for their spouse. So we refer that to a criminal specialist, but it's a huge problem.
Yeah, it is a huge problem. And so what do you think the root cause beside the values are? Sometimes I think it's the financials. Could be
a lot of the times it's financials. There are times when it's more like cheating and adultery. But right now in today's economic market and in the world we live in today, a lot is financial stress. People don't know how to cope with this world. People, especially coming back to the ethnic component, the male is supposed to be the primary breadwinner.
Yeah.
And when they cannot do this, they feel trapped in a corner. They feel that even their own spouse is targeting them because they're not hitting their own internal quota. They're not able to provide for the family, and that causes friction. And then when you start seeing, missing mortgage payments, missing credit card payments, not being able to get your kid this, going to a grocery store and finding out a bag of grapes is $11 now. Like this adds up, and this is a pent up, right? This is pent up, and now it's exploding. It's a lot more now. Like we had COVID, which bottled in a lot, and there was an explosion post that, and especially in the family law world. Yeah. And now you're having this financial stress, which is causing a lot of bottle, and now it's exploding. People cannot keep up anymore. People for the first 6 months, a year, were living lines of credits, credit cards, getting second mortgages to keep up lifestyle costs. But now it's all maxed out. And sometimes, it gets to a point where every married couple fights, but it just goes over the board.
Yeah. And these are the trend you are seeing it right now, I guess.
Yeah, the trends are, it's a lot. It's a lot on the domestic violence side. There is a large increase on there's a large increase on financial claims. So a lot of moms are coming back and saying usually, husband, even if they're not making much and they both agreed to some sort of nominal child support, they're okay with it. But now they're like, look, lifestyle costs have gone up, rent has gone up, food has gone up.
They're drilling it down.
Yeah, Dad, you need to pay more because every line item on my budget is maxed out. So if I could get 10% more, 20% more from Dad, it helps the bottom line. So we're seeing a lot of claims for financial assistance, greater financial assistance come in, and I don't see any hope at the end of this tunnel yet. It's probably going to take another 12 to 18 months.
So you're probably seeing a lot of these things when it goes out of control. And if someone is seeing there's an issue, they know it's going to go out of control. When do you think is the right time to seek help?
Before it gets out, it's easier said than done, but definitely before it gets out of control. But really, if you drill down, is when you don't see a pathway. Let's say it's a financial issue. That's a core. You have to identify what your core issue is. Is it like adultery, where potentially there is no coming back, or is it a financial lifestyle issue where maybe hard financial choices need to be made about lifestyle, but if done, you could save it and go on. If you identify that it's a financial issue, the first part I tell people is, are you willing to change your life? Are you willing to pare everything down? And your core is your family, and everyone will say, yeah, I love my family, I'm gonna do everything for my family. But I'm like, are you really willing to do everything for your family? Are you willing to change?
It's a big change.
It's huge. How many people want to downgrade their house willingly, or not in the face of mortgage enforcement or power of sale proceedings, but willingly 6 months, a year in advance, see, hey, my lifestyle cost is going up, the trend is like this, I won't be able to meet this, my family won't be able to meet this, let's pull out now.
Before it goes out of hand.
And it's teaching that, sometimes my job is almost to be a teacher, is to teach that, to say that, hey, can we financially project you guys? You come in with this problem, let's financially project. How long, what's your burn rate?
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, can you burn like this? And what's the stress on the burn rate? Right?
It's going to add more fuel to the relationship or your kids.
Do you guys have pre-existing health issues? What can we salvage? Because if you cannot pay your mortgage or rent, I mean, mortgage usually. Can we sell it, get something, go rent, use some of the savings or the equity you have from your home as to offset the increased rent amount and survive? Just survive. Like my goal is to help them survive the next 18 months. And then we get to the next part, right? So like, yeah, it's really hard right now, especially on the financial side.
But you brought a valid point about burn rate, how long you can burn, and what is happen if you cannot keep up the burn rate going, right? You need to have a plan B.
You need to have plan B, and you need to be willing to move to plan B. Everyone has plan B. Is like, okay, I'm going to downsize.
But when?
When? Like, are you psychologically ready for that? It takes a lot from a person.
It's a lifestyle change.
It's a lifestyle change. Like if you tell me right now, even if I am, my kids are young, they'll be like, no, we like this red house. So it's like
They're moving.
They're not moving. They're like, so it's like you have so many internal challenges to meet. So we tell them it's like, hey, like, is the burn even worth it? Like, what are you getting out of it? Like, how much are you saving? Like, sometimes I tell my people, we do a bit of real estate law too, and then they'll ask us, check out this renewal for us. And we usually are on the legal side, but sometimes they'll ask us like, hey, what do you think of this? And my question is, okay, like I come from a very like financial analytical side. I'm like, okay, this asset, what's the appreciation rate in the next 24 months of value? Or what is your cost of this asset class? What is a comparable when you don't own this? And if you take the extra money from the rent, let's say 6,000, let's say 6,000 is mortgage and 3,000 is rent, the extra $3,000, you put it into an index fund in today's market, where you're getting 7 to 10%, you're pretty safe. Or put it in a GIC and get 5%. Is that better? Right?
And have a smoother life.
As much stress-free life. Maybe take a vacation this year. Even in a recession, you'll be able to take a vacation. Are you willing to do that? And most people do not. Like they'll hear it, they want the advice, but they don't want to take it.
Yeah.
But for the few who have done it, man,
it's life changing.
Yeah, one family did it about 8 months ago, and they put their money into the market, and the market ripped, and they made way more than they would have done holding a house for 5 years in Toronto. And you could liquidate your stocks in 30 seconds. Liquidity, right? So it's like, and they're happy, and they're already on the second vacation this year. And I'm like, damn, I'm jealous.
So people who understand their challenges, who actually action them, you can still fix things and have a stress-free life and
100%. I think like what everyone's learned post-COVID and post this interest rate is how to optimize your or minimize the stress in your life, because life is short. You don't know what's going to happen to anyone around you. So how do you live a happy, wholesome life? And for everyone, it's a different metric, right?
Okay. Everyone's happiness is different.
Everyone's different. Everyone's goals are different. Everyone's ambitions are different. But you have to identify that. And I think like families need to have open and honest conversations with their spouses and identify what it is. And just because you had a goal, a family goal when both of you were 30, it's not going to be the same at 35. It's not the same at 40. It's not the same at 50. Definitely not the same at 60. Goal changes, health changes, families change, right? Climate changes. Like how many people want to live in Toronto when they're 75 now?
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like, you have to have check-in points and make a plan and go for it. It's like running a business.
Exactly. So Vithu, this relates into more into real estate side as well, right? So how messy it gets and how are you handling this family law separations and real estate and the family? Like, can you walk us through what are you seeing as a trend and what is the best piece of advice to navigate through this? Because this has become very messy. Who made the payment? I made the payment. You didn't make any payment. We work with the client. Like when the client comes to us, we cannot do any financial solution without they having a separation agreement. I had a client call me today after 2 years. She's like, I've been working on a separation agreement for 2 years. So just walk us through.
Okay. So my number one thing when people call me for separation agreements, I'm like, look, you know your ex-partner way better than I do. You slept beside them. Are they at a point in their mindset right now that because a separation is really like it brings out the worst in people. So you know the other side. So are they ready to come to the table and sit and talk maturely? Number one. And if the other side is not ready to do that, I'm like, do not waste your time on separation. Like for this 2-year person, a 2-year example, What we would do, like technically, a lot of family law lawyers would do is we would send a letter saying, "Hey, to the other side and saying, are you willing to do a separation agreement? Yes or no?" If they respond back, even if it's a no, that's great. At least they're responding.
Responding. Yeah.
They have so many cases where they won't even bother responding. So we tell them, like, stop wasting your time. Just bring a court application.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a resolution in 12 to 18 months nowadays. Faster than a separation agreement.
Yeah.
And then so you could use a court order to divide the asset and move on with your mortgage solution. Or you could do a separation agreement. But for the separation agreement, we always ask, is like, is it an equal playing field? Are you guys really like some people want to just get it done quickly? Because to resolve their next payment, like we did something like a couple of weeks ago. They came and one part they split, and one party was paying the bills, and the other party was also on title, but they didn't care about their credit.
Yeah.
And this party was struggling, and I'm like, it's okay, just stop paying the payment. Like I'm not sure on your tactically for us, like stop paying the payment is another way of getting them to the table, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, then you're ruining your credit.
Your credit and stuff. And then we were like, and if you don't want to do that, then you need to, stop wishing for a separation agreement and let's go to court.
Yeah.
Because we could get a court order within 6 months to say we're going to force the sale of this home. Right? Or force the sale of for buyout or something to resolve your crux of the issue. So you need to come and seek for help and get pathways, because we tell people, even if let's say you split this week, for you to be emotionally in a point where you're willing to negotiate, it's going to be 3 to 6 months out.
Good.
Because there's
you got to get the emotions out.
There's a healing period before you're willing to sit down and talk. So we say, like, look, if there's an urgency and you're not willing to wait, then you got to do this. So, yeah.
So how does the house can be divided? Like, what do you guys look at?
Okay, so
how does it work?
So we always say, like, hey, did you come in? Was there a prenup? Because that would materially change how we look at this asset class completely. If not, and a lot of people do not have it, so we look at, when did you buy the house? Pre-marriage, post-marriage. Post-marriage, it doesn't matter, right? We just look at fair market value today, look at the remaining mortgage balance, and mostly we'll divide it by 2. However, if one person racked up gambling debts or selfish debts, we'll call them, not for the household, chronic alcoholic who used all the family savings for their behavior, will not be divided 50-50.
This is a very detailed process. Like, how do you how long
we break it down everything. So
like you go back like 12, 34 months bank statements. Like it's
minimum
detailed process.
minimum 24 to 36 months. We'll go back, and we want all your bank statements. So if you have 3 checking accounts, 3 savings accounts, 5 credit cards, 2 lines of credit, but everything. So your bundle may be like this. When, like, after my consult, like what I give you as your homework, and you got to go dig for it. We need your 3-year tax returns. This is without kids involved, and then you have the house. Okay, what's the exit price? Can they afford the buyout? Right, like, so it's like, are you gonna sell it? Some people are like, oh, this is where my kids live, so I want to live there. The other side is like, nah, she can't afford this house without me paying for the mortgage. Let's sell it. So there's a lot of ego and issues that you have to resolve as well. But we have to get to every single line item in your financial life. We have to basically inspect and document. And we have to inspect the other side. This is without pensions. You go throw pensions in there, bigger thing. If you have inheritance, whole different world. You have registered savings accounts, different world. Investment properties, treated differently. Foreign properties, treated differently. So people think a separation agreement is simple. Like, if you have one house and like maybe adult kids, sure, it's simple.
Yeah.
But if you have kids who are minors and you have a couple of assets,
custody become a bigger issue.
Yeah, it becomes hard, and then custody, right? I would just say on general, not all the time. On general, it sucks to be a dad. Because it's not because the system is unfair. No, the system is fair. It's because we're primarily the primary breadwinners. So we will not see the kid as much as mom. Therefore, mom would be traditionally the natural custodian of the child. Therefore, they will get more custodial rights and time and benefits than dad. Right? So, dads get shafted.
So, what's the best way to simplify this rather than going through this aggravation? Like, is there any simple model? Like, it's a mutual understanding, I guess. Right?
Simple model is hey, if both people are mature and they look at the bigger thing is how are we going to co-parent this child and just until my children become 18, 22 and have that as the focus, not the hurt, not that you screwed someone else, not that you didn't bring anything to the table in this relationship. But if you really focus on, hey, how are we going to split, live a new life, but also make sure we do the best to create a healthy environment for our kids. I tell them to come from this perspective. And this is the lens that we're going to do everything through. So once you have these glasses on, then it becomes much more easier because it's not about you and her. It's about, okay, I brought this life into this world. What are we going to do the best for? How are we going to do the best for this life? And once you do that, people's guards come down. They become less heated,
more amicable.
They're willing to make more amicable. They're willing to make the sacrifices necessary because separation agreement is a compromise. So if you need to be willing to make both parties must compromise. So introducing the kids, especially if there's children in there and looking for the best interest of the children, tends to bring people's better sides out, the natural parents in them out, and it brings them to a situation where they're more amicable or more amenable to compromise.
So when it's come to the buyout, so that's why we work with you and other family lawyers as well. It's become very complicated. So how do you come up with the valuation? Like, what's the process involved to come to an agreement for the buyout?
So
but that's a lot of times. The first thing I get from the clients are, can I buy the person out? Can I buy him out or can I buy her out? What are the options?
So the easiest example is there's no debt for anyone. And if they bought the house, post marriage, we just look at what the mortgage balance is, what the fair market. We'll do an appraisal. So one of the sides will pitch 3 appraisers. The other side will pick the appraiser. So
you want 3 appraisals?
We're going to do 1 appraisal usually. Depends on how amicable they are. But one side will recommend 3 appraisers. The other side will pick one of the appraisers recommended. They split the cost of it, and they'll say we'll agree to this appraisal value. So that's the high end. So you deduct that from the mortgage, divided by 2. Yeah. And then that's it. However, when moms go buy out, it's a lot easier for moms to buy out because the math is in their favor. Because traditionally going back, they're going to be the primary custodian. Okay. Therefore, what we will do is saying, hey, mom, you're going to need $400,000 to buy out dad. But then like you yourself or like a mortgage specialist will say, look, she can't go that high. Yeah. Then I'm like, okay, what's the max out for her? Like, you tell me what's the max out because I need to reverse engineer my math. Yeah. And then you might say, maybe 280. 280 is what she could do. I'm like, okay, 280 means 260 minus all the fees and penalties and stuff. So 260. I'm like, shit, I got to work on 140. I'll be like, okay, dad, how's this? Instead of you paying monthly child support, can you front load the rest of your child support up front? Deduct it right now, and we'll give you a discount on it. We might give you a 20% discount on it. So dad would be like, okay, I don't have these perpetual payments monthly going on. Maybe I could knock off 40, 50K per kid off this. Then I'll be like, hey, there's all these other debts, right? So, mom, she's not going to pay off her debts. But dad, you have 30K in debts, can we come into some arrangement of how we're going to offset that? So, we could play with the numbers to get to what we need, but we need strong mortgage professionals who know what the hell they're doing. This
gets very tricky.
And on the vice versa, you need a family law lawyer or lawyers
who can work with it,
who could work and who could understand the bigger picture and work around these situations to come up with
the financial situation.
Yeah, to craft solutions. Right?
It's a very hard thing because it's very hard to come to the solution.
No, so it's like, because at the end of the day, for most dads, they're like, look, if my kid really loves this house, the house is the family members have broken up. At least let the kid have normalcy to live in the same house, to live in the same room, to go to the same school, to have the same friends. So it's like, we work with a lot of dads. So we tell them, it's like, look, yeah, it's not nice, but are you willing to take a bigger sacrifice than you thought when you came to me? And tell me that's not a loss, because you know what? Your child is going to appreciate it when they're 25, not when they're 15, 16, especially the teenagers are awful. Kids are awful. My kids are not that age yet, but it's awful. They're so spiteful human beings. But But like, once they finish undergrad and they're in a relationship
So
themselves,
they understand.
and especially when they become parent, they're like, oh, dad did this for me. Like, dad took that L for me back then. I respect him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I tell them, I'm like, think about that. Think about the long-term relationship, not just today and 6 months from now.
Don't be
Think about-
spiteful.
Don't be spiteful. Be the bigger person. Your kids will see it, right? It's not immediate. Don't burn down your relationship with your kids because, oh, mom seems to be getting her way with everything. You try. And, there's in family law especially, it's like we have this thing where like, this is an allegation that like, the parent with custodian, the other parent always alleges that, oh, they're poisoning the kid's mind and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I tell them, it's like, look, for that parent, who do they have to vent to? Maybe it's their child.
Child's the only one who's around.
Yeah, so it's like maybe it's a child who can understand or relate, or it's the parent's safe haven. I'm not saying it's right. We highly discourage it, but sometimes we like, be empathetic. Like, but we understand the effects that poisoning the child's mind has. But a child, if you've succeeded in parenting, will understand that later on in life. So we tell people, don't take like, a blowtorch to everything and like just destroy everything when you're way out.
Takes time. So this is also getting very tricky as well in terms of the buyout because it's hard to qualify these days.
I don't know how you guys do it, man, because like some brokers will be like, oh, I need this agreement purchase and sale, I need this and this, but when I deal with you guys, it's very different. Right? So I'll be the host today.
So
how do you do this?
Most of the time when they come for the buyout, it's hard to do the buyout because the mortgage was qualified with 2 people income. Now it's down to 1 person's income. I have even seen the situation, the couples have decided to keep the house together. One of them decided to go on rent and keep the mortgage going until the kids are done school. That is a lot of respect for those families and the couples because they look at the bigger picture of the kids. Like are you seeing those kind of trends going on?
You'll see that in more affluent couples, I would say, like in the sense that where they may have an option for a second house. Because if they only have one house and the other party, or like you'll see that when the kids are much older, with families with kids much older.
Correct.
Because if the kids are much younger, that means the parents are much younger. So they may want to, restart their life. They might want a new life partner. They want
to buy another property.
They want to buy another property. They may not want to have their finances intermingled, the credits intermingled.
Correct.
Right? So it's like if the couples are more affluent or the kids are older, yes, that's a better approach.
Because the thing is, one of them is going to buy one of them out. They both are going to lose. At the end of the day, I have couple. They said at the end of the day, my kids are going to be losing, so might as well we'll keep the property.
I think we did one where like the couple said like, okay, let's keep the. I believe it was
maybe that was with you.
Yeah, I think it was with you. It's like they're like the housing market sucks anyways. So why doesn't one of us rent and the other one just
keep the house
for the next couple of years, and the housing market's done.
We'll reevaluate it.
And reevaluate it in a couple of years. I'm like, kudos to you.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's like a best decision.
Amazing, because they thought about not just themselves, but
the family,
and the other person that they're breaking up with.
Yeah.
Right. So win-win-win. Very rare to see in family law.
Yeah, because it's getting like if you are a strong income earner, yes, like there are options. You can do a spousal buyout up to 95%.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people don't know that you can do a spousal buyout up to 95% is being treated as a purchase. Like technically the purchase price has to be less than $1 million, but you can go up to 95%. So that's mean even if you don't have an equity, you can go up to 95% of the property value to buy out. So we have helped few clients like that. But it's not easy, especially in today's environment. It's not easy.
Yeah, rates are high.
Qualification is harder.
Qualifications high.
Like probably you use a 2 people's income, now 1 person's income up to 95% to get the equity out.
We're seeing a big trend where like the person who's buying out the other might bring on another family member to help co-sign.
That's the thing I was going to tell.
Parents coming involved because they need more income. Like,
they need more income. So that's the other thing I was going to say. So that's also get a little bit more complicated as well because you need to get the family member involved to co-sign to keep the property.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. It's definitely like there's no cookie cutter file. This is not like other parts of law where it's like very cookie cutter or very simple. Like everyone has their own dilemma, both on the family side, like the personalities.
Yeah.
Finances are different, and their income and credit situation is different, right? So it's like there's a lot to balance. And yeah, I tell people, I'm like, seek out help. Well, that's what I think I did, but I think I should refine that and say, seek out good help.
Good help. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
regardless if
advice.
it's your mortgage broker or a lawyer, like seek out good help who could really help you find pathways. There's always pathways
Yeah.
to whatever your problem is.
What I'm seeing is you're seeing a lot of couples are like selling and they're going in two different directions and take their equity out and buying one each.
Yeah,
That's what I'm seeing lately.
There's no buyout. The buyouts are very rare.
I'm not seeing a lot of buyouts because it's harder to get qualified.
Yeah, I'm seeing buyouts on files where it's like, the mortgage is surprisingly like 200,000, 250,000. Even if the buyout is like 400,000, 500,000.
It's still one of them can't qualify.
One of them can't qualify, or an adult child will come onto the mortgage. So that's what we're doing. Like there's a buyout, but the adult child is coming on the mortgage, and the parent who's leaving could have forced a sale, probably got more on the open market, but they're like, look, my kid grew up there. They're going on the on title. Eventually, the house is for this child. I'm okay. I'll take a little bit less. Respectable from that parent.
Got it. It's a tough on you, man. Like, you are dealing with the emotions and the law.
Yeah.
Law says one thing and the emotions say one thing, right? How do you navigate through this, Vithu?
It took a long time to get to this point. There's a lot of times you take this home. I have dreamt about files. I have been in the shower where I have dozed off for 10, 15 minutes and I would get a bang on the door and I would like zone back in. Like you get sucked into people's lives.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And they come to us, especially in family, come to us at the most critical point, like at the flash point. So it's like you're taking their critical point and trying to fix their life when you just walked into it, right? So it is friggin' hard. And this is when they're emotionally supercharged too. Like if you have a file for like 18 months, by month 12, like they've settled down.
Yeah.
But like when they're supercharged and you have to try and tell them how we're going to navigate this. And
they don't like your answers either.
Yeah. And so I think like, experience really helped. Unfortunately, like experience really helped. Doing a diverse set of files helped. Having an ethnic background helped when I was, primarily raised here. Tremendously helped because I'm kind of able to see both sides.
Both sides of the world.
Both sides of the world. But a lot of times it's listening. Because like I try to, at the end of a consult or a meeting, I'm like, what does the client really want? Right? Sometimes it's not what they're saying with their mouth, but what do they really want out of this?
You had to kind of dig them out.
And sometimes they don't know. Sometimes you're actually leading the pathway. We're like, okay, like, superficially, yes, it's this, but eventually you're going to come to this realization because we've seen it happen. So we'll be like, okay, let's position the file like this. And sometimes the clients, like we tell them where they're going, but they don't go. And you also have to be picky with clients. You know how we say pick a good professional?
You got to pick a good client.
You got to pick good clients.
Who you can work with.
Yeah, like
I think it's in our profession, any profession.
Yeah, in any profession, like we're super picky on, especially family, because it's so draining if you have a toxic client. And it's very hard to get off record, like get off the file, like especially if your court proceedings have started and stuff. So we're very, very sensitive and like the type of clientele. Like we have on our intake team, we have this filter, like we informally call it the "Are you crazy" filter. Like that's like at the top of the intake sheet. Like, what's your name, phone number, email? Are you crazy? If it's yes, like we try to get you off that call. We don't get further. Like no, because it's so hard. What we're trying to do is like an affect like generations. Like I tell my I'm a junior lawyers. I'm like, look, guys, in family, you're gonna affect like
generations,
the next generation, and maybe generations, and how they're gonna feel the effect of this separation, the trauma of the separation. So be very mindful of the steps you make. All right.
Very true. So if you want to give a piece of advice based on your experience seeing all this for years, what would your best advice to avoid conflict?
It's something I think I've still told you guys. I'm like, I'll be crazy to get married a second time. But no, I think you have to keep the bigger picture in mind, right? Who is this all for at the end? And as parents, our viewpoints have completely changed than when we were single and no kids.
Correct.
Right? Like it's a lot of things we do is are kid centric or kids for. Even the sometimes the success, our ambition, our
For.
goals
Who's it
is
for?
who's it for, right? And I tell my clients and I tell everyone, keep that as top of mind, right? And if you could keep that as top of mind, you could get through this, right? And you might not be happy with what you think the end result is, but if you look back, you're sitting on a beach when you're 60 years old, and it's like, did I make the right move? I think you'll say you made the right move then, and that's more worth it than regretting it later on in life.
Any advice you can do to avoid this conflict in the early stage? You wish if you did this, you wouldn't be here.
I think to mitigate, I think I don't care who you are now. I think you need to start with a prenup. Times have changed. A lot of people we're in multi-generational debt, right? Around parents' mortgages, kids' mortgages, kids' loans, parents' business, whatever it is. Prenup, I believe, is a smart conversation. And I say it's smart, not for the prenup agreement itself, but is the partner that you're going to marry mature enough to have this conversation? Correct. It's a testing point. And if they're not, I say, hey, it's not about getting the prenup signed. That's not the critical part. But how did this process go? Because this is how your process in life is going to go for other major decisions in your family. So this is a testing point for you. Second, you need to carve out space to talk about the development of your family throughout your family's life. Life moves super fast.
Correct.
But you need to carve out some time, not alone time, not daytime, not this, to actually sit down. Your partners in this venture. Sometimes it's like I treat it like a business. Like, we're both partners. We bring different value sets to this table. What's the vision? What's our 20-year plan? When marriage is like, where do we want to retire? What's a 20-year plan? What's a 10-year plan? What's a 5-year plan? What's a 3-year plan?
Are we on track?
Yeah. How's your body doing? Are you training? Have you changed in the last couple of years? Like, are you feeling all right? Are you mentally all there? Like, especially with females, like, going through pregnancy and stuff is like one of the biggest life changers in their life, and their body gets screwed up. Right, guys don't go through this, okay, or the impact is low. But for women, like, so you need to create this open dialogue space to have it to understand the other person, because maybe what you were thinking where your life is going to be at 60 when you were 30 may not be there at 35.
Correct.
Right, so it's like
it changes.
So you need to have this time, this bond, like this almost professional time. Just talk about, hey, are we on? Like, are we
in the same?
Are you on the same wavelength, right? And sometimes people fall out of love. Sometimes maybe there's things you can do to do it. Seek counseling, seek third-party advice. Don't think you two know it all. This is the first time. If it's your first marriage, especially, it's the first time you're going through it. So what do you know, right? Like, seek help from people who do this on a daily. So it's like. And even if you're from a cultural part, now there are services which are ethno-specific, cultural-specific. So if you need counseling that fits your cultural mode, it's available.
Your values or your environment.
It's there. So seek it out, help it, and don't forget to have fun in this journey. Like, life is super stressful.
This is a bit off topic, Vithu. Can you talk about the real estate transaction that you can close in Alberta, because it could be a valuable information.
Okay. So, I actually have to send out a disclaimer to all my Ontario clients who are buying in Alberta, because they're so used to, and most of them are investors. Like 90% of them are investors. So they think they can do last minute mortgages, last minute signings, last minute deals.
It's completely different.
Completely different. We're in the Wild West, literally the Wild West. So, here's an example. So land titles. So here we have title insurance, which will protect the lawyer if he registers something incorrectly. There, it's not like that. The title is registered by the province of Alberta through the land titles office. Okay, so that's one. Two, prior to closing, you need to mail physical originals of some of the closing documents to the land titles office, and they have to receive it prior to closing.
How many days?
the earlier the better. You could ask for expedited, so even if it's on the same day.
Okay.
But look at the logistical planning that has to go.
It's a manual process.
Yeah, it's a manual process. So we try to schedule all our signatures 2 to 3 weeks in advance. This is not like Ontario last minute.
Yeah.
They have to come sign. We have to prepare the package, FedEx it, or courier it. So we have a clerk out there, 20 minutes from the land titles office. So we courier it to her. She will vet the final package.
Hopefully no snowstorm.
Hopefully no snowstorm, because she's like 20 minutes from Edmonton. And she will courier it to the land titles office, and all of this has to sync. So that's one part. The mortgage lender has to instruct, comply, fund. Second part. Third part, the builder or the purchaser, we have to comply with their part and send them their funds.
Wow.
So
it seems like a very complicated process.
Yeah, so it's a lot more logistically involved. And I tell people, I'm like, guys, like it's not Ontario. If you want me to do a primer on it, I'll do a primer for you on it. But you need to, because we're the last point of contact for clients. So when we go to do this, where they're like, oh, my lawyer didn't tell me, why am I getting instructions 2 days before? Why am I doing this? Because they're like, we work with this, we have a lot of deals with this one builder. And their penalty is 23% per annum.
Oh, wow. Per day.
Per day. So if your registration's late, let's say your balance to pay the builder is $315,000. You're paying 23% per annum. So even if it's in the trust account,
you're still paying.
You're paying until registration can happen.
Wow.
So like I tell people, I'm like, guys, like we all need to be on the same place, because all of us are learning.
So start the process.
We start the process early. So yesterday we had a closing for July 25th. We did the client signing yesterday.
Wow.
And I'm like, the mortgage is not here. It's okay. I got the builder documents. I got the title documents. They signed it.
But at least you get those logistics out of the way.
Yeah. So, by next week, my clerk in Edmonton will have it. So she has 2 weeks to prepare everything.
And create it.
And to have it couriered. And we want to do it minimum 3 days prior to closing. So we
no
have buffer room.
Surprises.
No, surprises. But imagine we're basically reteaching realtors and agents on how the process is.
Wow.
Right, and
I didn't know it's that complicated.
It's like getting used to it. Like if you're out there, that's a norm.
Yeah.
For all of us. From
now,
here,
now it's normal for you guys.
Yeah. Now it's getting the norm. So it's a lot. So we do real estate transactions there with private mortgages, sales, purchases, refinances, title transfers. We do all of that. On the real estate side, we do immigration and refugee work out of Alberta as well. We do some corporate commercial work out there. So we do like incorporation, some business matters. There's a lot of business transactions that happen there. So we're in that space. And so, yes, you can reach out to us. And then one of the reasons we will open up right now here is because if you are not using someone like us who's dual licensed, then you need to have a local lawyer who's going to deal with the title registration and the mortgage. They're gonna prepare the package
and send it to here.
Send it to a Ontario lawyer.
So you need 2 lawyers,
and you got to pay for both lawyers. And the Ontario lawyer has to notarize and commission everything
and send it back
and courier back to that lawyer. So now you pay for 2 lawyers. Yeah, it adds.
It's already
a process. It adds layers to this process.
Yeah.
So the competitive advantage for us is like, you only pay 1 lawyer, so you save yourself,
and you simplify the process.
And the process is much slower, has much
simplified.
It's more simplified, has less layers.
Yeah, you can represent both.
We represent both, right? And there's advantages to that. So so if you do have transactions in Alberta, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll walk you through it. Yeah. And then if you choose to go with us, then we'll head out from there.
So if for the audience, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Okay, so if you want to reach out to us for any Ontario related matters, you could reach out to our Ontario law firm. We're a Ramachandran Law Professional Corporation, Ramachandran.law. We'll put all the details in the captions and all the details below. We also have a sister law firm out in Alberta. So if you're based in Alberta and you have any legal needs, you can reach out to the Ramachandran Law Professional Corporation, and we'll put the contact details for that as well.
Perfect. Thank you for being here, Vithu.
Appreciate
your time, brother.
Of course.
Thank you.